happy to have you amongst us here at E.J.Lajeunesse, and we are excited to hear your story. So, without further ado.
Thank you for having me, and I'll try to say as much as I can that I remember. I come from Poland, and I was born in 1931. I was 8 years old when, in a nice full day, all of a sudden we hear on the radio that war was declared and our country was attacked. It didn't take long that we didn't have a government and we didn't know what the future was ahead. It took 18 days before we knew we had a new regime. Our country got divided in two. Part was Germany, part was Russia. We were lucky we were under the Russia. Our government changed very suddenly. We couldn't have the same schools. We didn't have our religion anymore. We had a different system of life. If you were a businessman, you were lucky in a way that you were sent to Siberia because you were rich, so it meant you were against the regime. A lot of people were unhappy whenever it happened to them, but in the long run, it was for the best because they survived. We weren't lucky. We were on the waiting list to be sent to Russia, far to the Siberia. By the time our luck came, it was too late. After 2 years, in 1941, we were attacked again. This time, we were taking over slowly. It took about a month before we had a new government, and that was the Germans. Then we had a new life, and all not for the better. This was already 41, June 24th. We had his first selection, it was called. We had a government where Jews didn't count for anything much. The first law was for all the men, all till the age of 16, to attend a meeting on the marketplace. Then a big truck came with the SS and with the dogs. And the list went for 120 people. My father and his older brother were from the unlucky ones. They were selected too. They were put on a truck, and that's the last we ever heard of them. Soon after, the farmers from around the countryside used to come and tell us different stories. They saw him there, they saw him here, but we never really knew where. But then we found out they took him out of town, not far, had him dig a hole and shot him right there and then. When this happened, we got slowly used to it. My mother was left with 3 children, and she was pregnant. I don't know how we survived, but we managed. We were lucky. We had another uncle who was not selected. We forgot about him, and he looked after us a little bit. The laws keep changing from day to day. In 1941, first you couldn't go to school, naturally. You couldn't walk on the sidewalk. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't farm. You couldn't own any animals or stuff like that. Coming from a small city, everybody had something like a chicken, cow, horse. This is a necessity because that was a form of transportation in those years. In 41, in November, they started a new law. They wanted all the gold, all the copper, all the silver, and on the floor. You couldn't have a coat with a full color because that was a luxury. You had the yellow star attached to your garments. You couldn't go out without it. And that kept going on and on. Liquidations, that meant if you found 2 or 3 people and you didn't like them for one reason or another, they were killed, and so forth. But we were a small community for about 5,000 Jews, and we had a very strong youth, and the youth means an important part of everybody who was surviving, who was trying to survive, because the youth didn't want to put up with everything, and they were resisting. So they formed a resistance group, but nobody could know about them because it was dangerous. In 41, finally it ended till December. In December they had 400 people taken to another community about 30 kilometers from us, where they were building an aerodrome. I don't know what's in English, well, for airplanes. So that was like a working camp. And then in December 15th, they decided they have to have a ghetto. So they decided on a part of the city was very narrow, out of the way, and they bordered it with wire that you couldn't, in case you wanted to run away or do something, so you couldn't go over the wire. And we were lucky again because my uncle's house happened to be where the ghetto was going to be. So we were all bundled up. By then my mother had already the baby, which was a little boy. I was the oldest. We went there in the ghetto, and it was harsh life, all this killing, and we never know what was going on. My uncle and aunt, they worked, my auntie worked for making uniforms for the army. My uncle became a shoemaker all of a sudden, and he was making boots for the army. Food, there was a dream, and life was not a picnic. In 1942, already, when my brother was 4 months old, we all of a sudden hear big woods and dogs barking. You know it's not a good sign. And banging in the doors. It's April the 30th. We hear out, 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 rouse, rouse. And that's, we know it's so good. We all go to the marketplace. And everybody's there. We don't know what's going to happen, but we know it's not a good sign. There comes a couple of soldiers with the dogs, naturally. And again, they have a selection, right, left, left and right. And we don't know which way is best, but we do whatever we are told. At that time, my mom was already, I think she gave up already, okay? My uncle and aunt had green cards. That means they worked for the government. So when we were pushed to right, my uncle had just one son, younger than me also. So they pushed him and fought after my uncle, my brother and sister, and me, my aunt, and then my mom with the baby. They pushed us out all to left. So that wasn't a good sign. And they pushed some back, all right. The one who went all right went back to stay there. The one who left, they put on talks. Where we were going, we didn't know. They took us outside town. There were two streets, two highways actually, divided each other. And one who went straight was a little wooded area. Nobody ever went there, but we knew it was there. And this straight road went someplace to another city. And that wooded area, by then, they had dug already a grave, but we didn't know about that. And then they put us in the ravine on the highway, and soldiers from both sides. We were about 2,000 people, maybe more. And we were sitting, the sun is shining, and we don't know what's going on. Then a motorcycle comes, and more soldiers. And they have again a list. And they count 10 right, 10 left. When they kept going, and every time we hear a left, we hear shooting. The other one go on the other side of the road. So we don't know what's going on, but we guess our turn comes, and they look at my uncle's papers again, and they send us, my uncle and us children and my aunt to the right, my mom and the baby to the left, straight. And there were some more people. We cross the highway, and they go straight. By the time we go to the highway across, we hear the shots, and we know what's happening. And they kept going until they finished all the people, right, left, right. Then they marched us back to town. And when they marched us back to town, all our good neighbors could do, stay, watch us marching, and shake with their heads and say, too bad, you weren't one of those. That means they wished us dead too. They bring us back in the ghetto, and since all those people were killed, we don't give all the space. So next day, they moved the ghetto again, and we have to leave my uncle's house and go to another place, which we did. And we were in a house with another family, with 2 children, and us, and some other people. In between that was going on, my own grandfather passed away in his sleep. So that was a relief, because it was a week before the liquidation. And by then it's already August, and life isn't better. We had some of the youth leave the ghetto. They smuggled out of the ghetto, and they met some partisans, that means underground fighters, from the Russian soldiers who, when the war broke out, they couldn't leave fast enough to go back to Russia, so they ended up in the woods, and they were in hiding. And at the same time, in 1941, when the army left, they left a lot of ammunition, tanks in the lakes, in the rivers. They sunk them, and a lot of rifles and all the small automatics. The farmers took it and hid them. They weren't supposed to, because the Germans wanted them, but they didn't. When the guys came in the wood to the fathers to ask if they had something hidden, they used to say yes if you buy it, and they wanted money. So somehow they got together money and they were buying it. At one point, two guys went to meet a farmer for some guns, and the guy gave them up, and they were attacked by the Germans. So they brought them back, one guy, one got shot, one they brought back. And he was at a Gestapo building, they were interviewing him. So he cut himself, and he wrote with his blood on a paper, and through a window he pushed through, and somebody found it. Friends, I'm fine. Nobody knows anything. It meant that he didn't give anybody up, and he's going to take his punishment. And the next day he was shot. That kept on going. In August 6, we hear again boots, and we know what's happening. At that time, when we were already in the new ghetto, with my uncle and the other men decided they need to make some kind of a hiding place. We didn't have a big yard, but there was a little shack on the yard, and they decided in those days in Poland, you didn't have a cellar like we have cellars here that you can make a big place there. But it was like a hole in the ground. You had a little piece of plates cut out from your floor, and there was a hole, you made some shells, and you kept some barley or stuff like that, but not much. So they kept digging that bigger, and that was going to be a hiding place. Everything is fine, but what do you do with the earth? Where are you going to put it when you dig it out? So they decided to put it in the shack. So it was growing there. Then they fixed it up so we should be able to stay there if all the family was with the house. They could put a pail for emergencies, a couple jugs of water again, and that's it. We were in the house, 6 children, all with whooping cough. And that's not fun. In any times, especially if you have to hide. But anyway, when we knew the Germans were coming to the houses, we climbed into a hiding place. And we were hoping for the best. So we were 6 children with whooping coughs and a 4-month-old baby. And we were waiting. It didn't take long. We hear and the dogs and all that, and we hear them talking, and they didn't find us. They're standing right above us, but they didn't find us. Not the first day. The second day, we couldn't keep, the mother decided not to keep the baby to endanger all of us. So she brought the baby out early in the morning and put him on a bed. It didn't take long after she went back to the hall that we hear again the boots. And now we hear already, they are questioning, where does the baby come from? We were here yesterday. Okay, they took the baby and they walked out. We made it through the second day, and at night my uncle decides he can't take a chance any longer. The dogs will find out. You're going to suffocate. So we had to leave. We were lucky. The dogs outside the ghetto didn't pick up our scent, and we got out of the ghetto and out to the town. It wasn't too long, it started to get daylight. We had to hide. So there was a wooded area not far from town. And we stayed there. The children had collapsed. The grown-ups had to watch. So again, another problem. There is the feeding space for grazing for cattle. So there is the cattle grazing. There's the guys who look after them. We were afraid they shouldn't find us. We were lucky again. And at night we started walking toward the woods. My uncle knew the countryside, and we depended on him. But children, not properly attired, it wasn't easy. We made it. Made it to the woods, and we collapsed. And we knew sooner or later the partisans would find us. Because by then, there was Jewish guys already from the ghetto there, the young men. And they formed a group of their own under the advice from the Russian soldiers. Sure enough, it was just getting dark, and we were all resting, and two soldiers on horseback. And they're Russian soldiers. And he asked my uncle who we are. So he tells him we are from this and this little town, and his name is so and so. He says, I know your brother. How did he know my father? He was from the first Red Army officers that came when they took that city in 1939. And he remembered putting my brother for a ride, taking him for a ride on the horse. And we were lucky to meet up with him. He says to us, I'm glad you're here, but you can't stay here, you're too close to the highway there in the woods. They had a broad stool. Go deeper, the Jewish guys will find you. So we went deeper in the woods, and sure enough, we were picked up as partisans. What are they going to do with us? They can't keep all the children, they're fighting. So anyway, they decided we should go to this part of the woods, this part of there, we should hide with summer, we'll be okay. So that we stayed there, and we had to look after ourselves because they were busy with fighting the Germans. Our ghetto was liquidated. All the people killed, and some taken to work factories. We had to look after ourselves. We were lucky. My uncle knew the farmers, and he used to go to the villages, and they used to give him some bread, this, that. Even they gave him a pot in what he can warm up some water. You can build by water. But came winter, it wasn't easy. We were sleeping in the snow. I call it, the snow was my mattress, the sky was my blanket. How we survived, I don't know, to tell you the truth. But somebody was watching over us. The fighters were a big fighting group in the woods. It wasn't just the Jewish people. There was a lot of Russian soldiers and other nations. But there was all the survivors in the ghettos who survived the ghetto, didn't end up being survivors because we died from typhus, from other problems. We lived in the woods for over 2 years. How we lived, I don't know. To tell you the truth, I can't believe I was there. Because to give it a description, it's unbelievable for any normal person to understand that a person can really survive that. We all came through, the four children, my uncle and 10. but we all came up walking people. We came up sick people, and people couldn't trust anybody for a long time because everything was taken away from you. You're taking away your belief, your willingness, and your hope. And this is very hard on young children. In 45, no, I forgot already. In 44, in July, we were liberated. A farmer came to us in the woods to tell us that the Red Army is advancing toward our town, and we should better leave the woods because the German soldiers are running out to hide in the woods. So it was hard for us to believe that they're going to take our place. But we left. It was a sunny July day, and I remember as we were walking out from the woods, there were bushes, beautiful bushes with raspberries, ripe raspberries, and we all wanted to have the raspberries. We wanted to eat the raspberries, and my mom says, we can't, we have to leave. So we left. And we were marching toward home, but we didn't have a home. Parents were gone, our houses were demolished, our future was no future. Finally, we came to our house. Our house was built in 1934. I remember because it had the number on the roof, and it was right in the end of a city block that had two roads. And the house was occupied during the war and the Germans went tour. All the windows were broken and open, and doors were open, but nobody built. And paper, you never seen so much paper in all my life, since and before. They tore up all the papers that they had there, and they ran. So we marched farther to my uncle's home, which was empty, still standing, and the neighbors weren't happy, not happy at all, but we ignored them. And we slept over on the floors. And somehow found a loaf of bread on the doorstep. Who brought it? We don't know. We never found out. But anyway, before the Germans came in, my aunt gave away a lot of stuff to some neighbors. And she was a dressmaker. So one grabbed the machine and she said, here, you'll be able to do some sewing, so maybe you can make a living, okay? And some more of the survivors ended up coming in town, and we had the Russian government again. Well, we settled in to a semi-normal life. The houses were empty, some were full with strange people. My auntie took to sewing again, my uncle got a job, and we children started going to school. So, you believe it, they were teaching us French, Russian, Belarus, and French, and Polish, okay? I'll tll you the truth, our minds were on education at that time, or any language. But we were going to school, okay? 45 came, and a new system became in Russia. Since we originally were Polish citizens, but war interrupted us all the years, they had a law that they can, being a Jewish person and a Polish citizen, because Poland again became a country, but Russia still took some of it, and Germany didn't, okay? So some of the German part became back Poland. So in Russia, they had some Polish citizens that during the war of 1939 ended up in Russia or Siberia. So they allowed them to leave Poland, to Russia, to go to Poland. So the cities like Warsaw, Lodz, they could go there. So we landed on a train and we packed up our gold, got a few things, and we go again. So we came to Poland in 1945, and we lived in Lodz. It was a big city, an old city. And Lodz was the longest ghetto because they used the people as workers for factories. And then we started. We lived in Lodz, and in Lodz oriented a lot of Jewish, American, and Israeli and Canadian organizations who tried to help the survivors. So they formed schools and stuff like that and went to school. But none of the Jewish people wanted to stay. None of the survivors came with us, wanted to stay in Poland. We weren't feeling safe because they were killing people in our building. And so it didn't affect us directly, but it affected them. And this was after the war in 1945. So it was from the organizations organizing, you could go to Germany. In Germany, they made, it was called DP camps. It was the place persons camp. But they weren't just for Jews, they were for Ukrainian, Polish, all of different nations were affected by war. And each had their camps, and each moved certain organizations. And from the camps, you can register where you want to immigrate out of Germany. The Polish quarter was a bad quarter, because it wasn't just for the Jewish people, but it was for everybody. So, if you had relatives to the States or Canada, maybe you'll be lucky to get some papers, but not everybody did. My uncle kept my sister with them because she was sick. And they had their son. I and my brother decided we were going to leave our uncle because we had to look after ourselves. My uncle got papers to go to the States, and they put my sister as a daughter, having the same name, the second one, and then having one child, it would be okay. But unfortunately, they didn't make it to the States. They went to Israel on the Exodus. You probably heard of it. There was a movie. A ship who was smuggling Jews to Israel during the English occupation. Okay. Anyway, they ended up in Israel. I ended up with my brother in Canada. In 1947, the Canadian government allowed the Jewish population of Canada to bring in 1,000 children who lost their parents. The Canadian government wasn't paying for that. It was paid by the Jewish community in Canada. Okay? The children had to be under 16 years, healthy, willing to work and look after themselves when they reach a certain age. Up under 16, the Jewish community will support them. Okay? So I and my brother came to Canada in 1948, October the 4th, to Halifax. We settled in Winnipeg. My brother went to school, I went to work. I just turned 16. I got married in Winnipeg, I had 2 children, and then I found I had a cousin who survived, the only survivor of my mother's family. And he survived Dachau. And he lived in Windsor. So we communicated and we decided we want to get together. So we moved to Windsor. So we were living in Windsor now since 1960. My brother is in Germany, in Berlin. My sister passed away last year in Detroit. And I have 2 children. Met my son. He has 3 children. And I have a daughter who lives in Pickering, Ontario. She has 2 children and 2 grandchildren. So I'm a great-grandmother of 2. So you see, I lived on board 87 years. I wasn't supposed to be here. But somebody upstairs had another way for me. So here I am. I gave you my history in short. But you really couldn't take it all because it would be too hard for you to understand. I'm sorry. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions?
Yes.
Oh no, I apologize.
Okay, so what kept you motivated throughout the hard times?
I can't hear.
Jeff, what kept you motivated through the hard times? Jeff, what kept you motivated during the hard times?
Well, maybe stubbornness and hope and not giving in. Because you feel there are some good people in the world. And that the few good people make up for all the bad people. And maybe a little bit luck, I don't know. But maybe for something meant to be. I believe in the meant to be. And you can't give up. You have to fight in what you believe.
How do you feel about it now?
How do I feel now? Unfortunately, you see it's still going on. And if so long people don't believe it's going on, it's not going to change. It's not going to change. It doesn't take 20 people. It takes one person to stand up and convince the other ones that they are wrong. Okay? Because a lot of you children have relatives who survived some kind of form of the army. Anybody has somebody in the army? A grandfather, a great uncle, or anybody, a cousin, or somebody in a family. When they came from the war in 44, 45, originally the war ended in 45 in May. Berlin was liberated already in the 29th of April. Okay. Wars were still going on. If anybody ever from the army who came after the war in 45 spoke about what he saw, no soldier who was in the camps, who liberated Auschwitz, Treblinka, they never said a word. You know why? Because what they saw, they couldn't believe that not the public will think they're normal. They'll think they lost their mind. Because it was something with a normal war. A soldier he goes on the front, he gets killed. This was an army, that was individuals. A 4-month baby being killed. What can a 4-month baby do to you? What can another person do to you? What can anybody in the land might do those things? And this was a country, educated country, in science, in history, in everything. And that came out from that country. No normal person will do it. People don't believe it now. They go to the camp and see, but they still don't believe it. You'll still hear people say it's all a make-up story. I never saw my father again, or any of the people. What they disappeared and still ate. I know what I saw when they took my mother and baby away. I saw the people dying around me in the woods, from typhus, from hunger. We lived on a hole in the ground. And my uncle put some wooden planks there and dry leaves as a mattress. And it's December. The water came up and we were swimming and we were all with typhus. Who can believe something like that? Nobody. I don't believe myself even now that it happened to me because it's not normal. A person knows they live, they die, everybody dies, it's a normal process of life. But this wasn't normal. Yes?
I hate to ask so many questions, but I'm just very curious about what you have to say. If you had to deliver a message to everyone in this room,
Message. Be a good person. Be an honest person. Okay? If you see somebody does something wrong, speak up. Speak up. Maybe the next person to you wants to help too, but they don't know how. With you speaking up, maybe he'll get the willpower to do that too. And from 2 people can be 4. But somebody always has to speak up. You don't wait for the next person to do it. When you see something wrong, you look after it.
thank you.
Yes?
Do you ever have nightmares after you came to Windsor? Have you ever had nightmares?
They don't go away. It lives on you. You put them on the back. You put it in the back, how should I say? You go and put on a tape with happy music. You read a book that makes you laugh. You take your photo album and you look the friends you made, the life you made, and it helps you a little bit. It helps you a little bit. But you don't forget. You try to forgive, but it's not easy. I was married to my husband for 64.5 years. We never spoke, but for us, how we survived. We came from different parts of Poland. If not the war, we would never in a million years met, okay? The war brought us together in Winnipeg, okay? We didn't talk about the war till, gosh, maybe 20 years in our marriage. We knew we were survivors, but that's it. My husband happened to be lucky. He wasn't home when the war broke out. He was visiting relatives. School was finished. he went to another city to visit the world broke out. And he went on a train to go home. The train didn't go where he wanted to go. He went to Russia. He ended up in Russia. Okay? On Siberia. There was no daylight there. There was night there. Because there was always dark winter. He was cutting wood. And he decided it's no good for him there. He'll freeze to death. So decided he'll go to the next town and see what, maybe he'll find some more immigrants who came from Russia accidentally. So he came and he met he worked the whole night. Wolves could have killed. If he would fall asleep in the snow, he would be dead. So he was lucky. So he met another boy, and he says, what are you going to do? He says, I saw a sign, they're forming an army. He says, what army? They formed a Polish army to fight the Germans. So they went more, they didn't have anything else to lose. And they registered and they went to the army. What army? In 1944, the fighting was going bad. So they had a lot of Russian soldiers, Polish soldiers, that when the Polish War broke out, and they ended up in Russia because they were running away from the Germans. So the army was there by army, but they were doing nothing. So the Russian government said, we're feeding you, we're clothing you, and we need help. We want you to help us fight. We'll give you an army with brigadiers, with generals, with everything, with costumes, with a flag, but fight under us, with the Russians together. They said no. Some said yes, some said no. So the ones who said no, they sent it out to the Red Sea, to Egypt. And they joined the English there. Then the other ones went a separate army. It was called Mme Reva, a woman. And they were fighting with a Polish uniform, Polish army, Polish everything. But they went all the way to Berlin. And they were the ones who liberated Berlin. Okay? That's how my husband survived. So you see, there was all kinds of stories. They were fighting in Berlin, they were fighting all the way from Smolensk, all that's on Ural. Ural are the mountains that divide Europe and Asia. And there was the very big fighting. And nobody hears about them. They hear about the Polish army that were fighting in Monte Cassino in Italy, because they were under the Polish English flag. See, it's a lesson in history. Any questions? Yes?
Did you ever go back in Europe to visit, or would it be too much?
I can't hear you.
Have you ever been back to your...
No, I have nothing to go there for. I would like to, but no. Once I left, no. I've been here now since 1948. So how many years is it? 70 years? I have no intention. Yes?
Do you find it difficult to ever speak of your experiences?
Continue.
Do you find it difficult to speak about your experiences?
It's getting Well, it's getting easier, yes and no, because a lot of times I stop and think to myself, did that happen to me? Okay? And I have a book. It's a memorial book, okay? It was printed in Israel, and it's a book that brings the history from my hometown since it became a town, okay? From the 1913s, okay? The first Jewish people came there in 1805 or something already. It was a town. They had already a government and all that. The first Jew came there in 1505. In 1505, there were already Jewish people in my hometown, but there was no government. So, how many years did it exist? See, there was no Jewish people in my hometown, just graves. Nobody. My brother wanted to go there last year, and then he changed his mind.
I have a question. Throughout your experience, have you ever struggled with your faith?
No. I think it kept me going. And another thing, I survived, my brother survived too, because we always were together. And of all the places, my brother ended up in Berlin. Wouldn't you see this is a joke? He's in Berlin, and he's not just in Berlin, he's a rabbi in Berlin. Now how is that? How does that strike you? Is that weird? Okay? And it's very active in the community, but unfortunately, it's not getting any better there. It was better, then it's getting backwards. Okay? But that's part of life again. Yes?
My friend wanted to ask you, did you have to learn any German?
Did I?
Did you have to learn German?
No. I never did. Well, I can understand that there is a similarity to Jewish in some words, but it's not German, it's not Jewish. Jewish is a language that is accumulation. Even it has their own alphabet, its own grammar and everything. It also has words from different countries included. Certain meanings. I might say a word, it's not a Jewish word exactly, but it's adapted from Polish, Russian, German, French, whatever you want. We have certain expressions that you adapt it, you know. Like you say, okay, okay is in everything. So where does it come from? It's got to have some meaning. I don't know. That's it.
Autre question? Any other questions?
So on behalf of all of us here at Lajeunesse, we would like to thank you so much for coming and sharing your story and really sharing the courage that it took for you to go through all the experiences you have gone through. It's one thing to study it in a book, but it's another thing to hear it in person. And I think you've really inspired quite a few people in this room, so thank you.
I hope you learned something. I hope you all learned something. That it pays to be a good person, okay? People never can go wrong if they are a good person. If you see somebody fall or somebody in need and you can give a helping hand. It's nothing wrong to go and volunteer. Or is it for food? Is it for clothes? It is just help with a language. Let's say if a friend comes from another country and they may be not speaking your language. So rather than make fun of them how they speak, help to correct them and make it easier for them. It's nothing wrong if you feel you're not doing good. You're learning, so give yourself time and you'll get better. But you have to strive for it and put on willpower, because you can reach to everything in your life that you set your mind to. Okay? You can accomplish anything. You're young, and if you put your effort in it, so long you don't harm a second person in the way you're doing things, then there's nothing wrong to strive for good things. And good luck. You can have a very bright future, because you live in a very good country.